Analysts at Parthian Securities expect the equities markets to swing between bids and offers in anticipation of third quarter earnings results as investors solidify their positions. Mercy Okon, research analyst at Parthian Securities, joins me now for more market updates. Mercy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, more numbers are trickling in. Of course, key for the market in the last 2 days has been GTCO. We saw profit up 181.8% year on year. I'd like you to just walk us through those key numbers for you, your analysis, looking at the line items.
Yeah, so when you look at their net interest income, you would see that there was an improvement of over 56.8%, which is quite fantastic. Looking at the profit before tax and profit after tax, just as you mentioned, we saw an improvement of about 155% to 101% respectively. However, the interesting thing is a bulk of what impacted on their bottom line was the FX gain, which was about 334 billion. Now, the interesting thing is if you back out the FX gain that they made, which was what which was what surged their income, you would see that the profit wasn't so much. It's about 77 billion, which is less compared to what they did in the previous year. When you're looking at it on a year-on-year basis. So yeah, and aside that, when you look at their interest expense, you would also see that increased by about 79.9%. There's also an increase in impairment on there's a little bit of an increase in loan impairment. It soared actually by over 2,000%. So yeah, thus far, the results seem good, but when you want to look at it intensively, in terms of the gains and on stuff like that, you want to take a second look at it.
That's quite interesting, because I was going to say, strip it, as they say, of course, the devil is in the details. If you strip away the FX, the jump in FX gains, the valuation gains, what does the story say in terms of the operating environment? You're talking about impairment jumping, so that obviously tells a different story.
Yeah, and it's less compared to what they did in the previous year, even when you take out the FX gain that they had last year. So it's not so fantastic when you're looking at it on that aspect. But then, the thing is, once we begin to see more of the Q3 banking results, like we've seen GTCO, the expectations for other banks are quite high, because you expect that you see the similar trends and in the result of the other banks.
I was going to say that, I was going to ask, that was going to be my next question, in terms of, is this a sign of, what's to come when it comes to the other banks? Because they're all operating in the same, obviously, same business environment, but obviously strategy differs from one bank to another, but what can investors expect?
Yes, so that's actually what's going on. And if you look at the market generally, you would see that investor sentiment has been quite down and sort of subdued. And this is because investors are taking a more cautious stance to things while anticipating the Q2 result, especially the banking stocks. And then you will see that when the week began, it was negative. The market was down by 0.6%. However, as of yesterday, when the results for GTCO came out, we saw that investor sentiment picked up a bit. Hence, one of the reasons why the market closed positive yesterday by 0.57%. And this is because investors are expecting that, the other banking result would also follow in the same line, seeing as that was sort of the trend that we saw at the point where they were releasing the half-year results. So yeah. However, as of today, the market actually closed negative by 0.02%.
I wanted to just wrap up the GTCO. Does this change your forecast for the stock for this year in terms of earnings per share, dividend yield, and what your position is, buy, hold, sell on the stock?
Generally, banking stocks are always a good buy. And this is because of the going concern and also because of the holding co structure that has been adopted by this bank. So yeah, GTCO, it's a good buy.
Right. I'm looking at the year-to-date return of some of the key sectors on the NGX. Consumer goods, for instance, year-to-date over 90%, industrials over 14%, oil and gas over 97%. So obviously, oil and gas sector has obviously outperformed the index so far this year. But it's, I'm looking at trading since Monday. It appears to be flat. Talk to us about sentiment. What's going on in that sector?
So if you look at, if you're following the sectoral performance
Right.
well, you would observe that the sector index, the other sectors have actually been down. Most of the sectors have been down, except for the banking sector. However, we started to see some uptick in the consumer goods sector, and this is majorly because of some of the consumer goods stocks like Dank Sugar. Nestle was also up, Unilever as well. For industrial goods, it was also up today. However, it's been flat for a while now. So yeah, I think another reason why the banking stocks has been leading in terms of sectoral performance, because the bulk of the activities that we've seen traded in the NGX or in the market has been led by this banking stock. So yeah, even today, the bulk of the activities that we're seeing in terms of volume and value were as a result of the banking stocks. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that investors are also eagerly awaiting numbers from the telco guys, from the telecoms? We know that that's, I mean, after the banking stocks, one sector that's done, the investors always look forward to the telco guys.
Definitely. Definitely. So, aside that, investors are just generally looking out to see what the positions and the performance are for most of these companies, especially because of the policies that have been rolled out towards the end of half year, and to see what the impacts would be on the numbers of this company, on these companies, especially in terms of operating expenses and finance costs. So
right.
Yeah,
right. We have
about
we have less than 2 minutes. I wanted to get your top stocks so far this week. Perhaps, let me add this, outside of the banking stocks, I know they're usually a favorite and for good reason too, but outside of the banking stocks, what stocks are, other stocks are on your radar?
Aside the banking stock, a little bit of the consumer goods stocks. Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Mercy, for talking to us today. Appreciate your time on the show. Mercy Okon, research analyst at Parthian Securities.